This happened just a few months ago. I'm Kevin, 35. I had just moved back in with my mom after my marriage ended. I thought the change would help us both. The house felt familiar but also strange. It was filled with old photographs and memories that seemed to echo from the walls. One evening I was on a call with a client, going through bank approvals like I did every day. Suddenly I heard strange sounds coming from the basement. It was muffled, almost like voices. I dismissed it, thinking Mom must be chatting with a friend or something. I glanced at her and she nodded, saying she was alone. I shrugged it off. Maybe I should have checked. In the days that followed, the sounds got weirder. I heard faint laughter and tapping noises that didn't have a clear source. Sometimes I thought I heard my name called softly from down there. My chest tightened, and I felt uneasy. I felt like something was wrong, but I tried to ignore it. It was just old pipes, I told myself. Mom's behavior changed too. I noticed her staring at the basement door, her eyes wide. I asked her about it, but she shook her head. "It's just my old brain," she said. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake off the feeling. I should have pressed her more. Was she hiding something from me? Every night I lay in bed listening for those sounds. They seemed to grow more insistent. I gripped my sheets tightly, feeling the tension build in my muscles. My heart raced with every strange noise or whisper. Banking procedures and office routines didn't help. Then one night, everything changed. I got up to check the basement. The door creaked loudly as I opened it. Cold air rushed past me. I turned on the light. There was nothing but darkness. I took a shaky step inside. My heart thumped in my chest. I was scared. Then I heard it. "Kevin." It clearly called my name. I spun around, but there was no one there. Just shadows and silence. My breath caught in my throat. Maybe it was all in my head, but I had to know what was going on. I hurried back upstairs, breathless. My mother was in her chair, staring off into space. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. "Mom!" I asked, trying to catch her attention. Then she looked up, and in a soft voice she said, "Wait till the bank approves." I froze. What did she mean? My mind raced. I had no idea what she was talking about. I looked into her eyes, but they were vacant. Something wasn't right. Now, I can't shake this feeling that something is hiding in our home. I can't figure it out. The laughter still echoes sometimes, and I hear those whispers. I need to find the truth. What mistake did we make? Why does "wait till the bank approves" still haunt us? The next morning I woke up with a sense of dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to dig deeper into what was happening around me. My coffee tasted bitter, and my mom was already sitting at the table, staring at the newspaper without really seeing it. I wanted to ask her about last night, but the words wouldn't leave my mouth. After breakfast, I decided to investigate the basement further. The word "approved" nagged at me, and I needed answers. I grabbed a flashlight and headed down the creaky steps, determined to uncover the source of all this unease. The air smelled musty and stale. I shined the light around, illuminating old boxes and discarded furniture. I rifled through the items, hoping to find something, anything, that would explain the noises and my mom's behavior. Then I noticed a small locked box tucked away in a corner, hidden under a pile of dusty clothes. My heart raced. Why was this here? I pulled it out, feeling the weight of its significance. It was old, the metal tarnished and rusty. I tried to open it, but the lock wouldn't budge. Frustration bubbled up inside me. What could be so important that it needed to be kept locked away? Just then I heard footsteps above me. I froze, straining to listen. Mom was humming softly, but her tone sounded off, like she was in a trance. I couldn't help but wonder. Was she aware of what was happening down here? I turned my attention back to the box. Maybe I could find a way to unlock it. I started searching for anything that might help, a tool or a paperclip. Just as I found a thin screw, a loud bang echoed from above. The noise startled me, and I dropped the screw. "Mom?" I called out, but there was no reply. The humming had stopped. With my heart racing, I climbed the stairs back to the main floor. The house felt eerily quiet now. I looked around the living room and noticed that the chair where my mom usually sat was empty. Unease settled in my stomach. "Mom?" I shouted, a little louder this time. Still nothing. I hurried to her bedroom. The door was ajar, and my heart sank as I pushed it open. The room was empty, the bed unmade and the curtains fluttering with a breeze that seemed to whisper something sinister. Where could she be? Then I noticed something that made my breath hitch. On her nightstand lay a piece of paper, the only thing on the surface. I picked it up and felt a shiver run down my spine. It was a note. In shaky handwriting it read, "They're coming for us. Don't let them in." My hands trembled as new fear washed over me. I turned around ready to call for her again, but then everything went dark. The power cut out completely. In the silence I heard a faint sound, like whispers echoing from the basement. "Wait till the bank approves." I felt a chill run through me. What had I gotten us into? I stood frozen in the dark, the note crumpled in my hand. The whispers grew louder, slithering around me, filling the air with dread. I felt a swell of panic. Where was my mom? I needed to find her. Gaining my resolve, I stumbled back towards the stairs. The echoes from the basement followed me, taunting me with every step. I gripped the railing tightly, my heart pounding in my chest. The house felt alive, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. As I reached the top of the stairs, I caught a glimpse of movement in the hallway. My breath caught in my throat. "Mom?" I called hesitantly. The figure was moving, slowly, deliberately, down the hall towards the front door. It was my mom, but her posture was strange. She didn't turn around, her gaze fixated on the door as if something outside had captured her attention. I rushed over, confusion and fear mixing inside me. "Mom, where are you going?" I touched her shoulder, but she flinched at my touch. She turned to face me, and the look in her eyes sent chills down my spine. It was vacant, as though she were somewhere else entirely. "Not now," she muttered, her voice distant. "They are coming." "Who's coming?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I scanned her face for recognition, for any acknowledgement that she was really there with me. But she walked past me, her feet moving mechanically, and my fear took hold. I hurried to block her path. "Mom, please listen to me." Suddenly her expression shifted. It was as if a cloud had lifted, and for a brief moment she looked startled. "What's happening, sweetheart?" She blinked rapidly, disoriented. "I don't know. I found this note." I waved the paper in front of her, but her eyes darted toward the door again, a flicker of panic crossing her face. "There's no time," she whispered urgently. "We have to get out of here before they come." My stomach twisted. "Who is they?" Before she could answer, a loud thud resonated from beyond the front door, followed by a series of harsh knocks. I could feel my heart race again, pounding against my ribs. I grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the door. "Stay away from there!" I pleaded. "Let me answer it," she insisted, her voice rising in urgency. "I have to open the door." "No, you can't!" I shouted, terrified. The knocking intensified, quick and relentless, rattling the frame. The whispers from the basement suddenly morphed into a chorus of indistinct voices, overlapping in rapid succession. They beckoned, promising, warning. I felt the weight of their presence pressing down on me. "Wait till the bank approves," one voice rang clear above the chaos. My throat tightened with dread. I had to act quickly. I couldn't let her reach the door. "Mom, come with me." I pulled her toward the living room, back away from the door. "We need to hide." As we stumbled back, the knocking stopped abruptly, and the air hung heavy with uncertainty. Then came a sound that made my blood run cold. A soft, insistent voice from the other side of the door. "Open up. It's time for the approval." I locked eyes with Mom, and we both knew. Whatever was behind that door was not friendly. "Mom, we have to figure out how to stop this," I said, fear lacing my voice. But deep down I feared that we were out of time. Then came the final dreadful knock, and everything went hauntingly silent. The silence stretched on, thick and unsettling. I glanced at my mom, her expression shifting from confusion to horror. "What are they waiting for?" she whispered, the fear in her voice raw. Before I could reply, the air around us shifted. The front door rattled suddenly. It felt as though something was trying to push its way in. "Mom, we can't stay here," I said urgently. I started pulling her toward the back of the house. We dashed through the living room and into the kitchen. I could hear my own breath quickening. Each second felt like an eternity. If we didn't find a way out, we might not make it. The back door was locked. I fumbled with the handle, my fingers slick with sweat. "Please, hurry!" We could hear the whispers intensifying again, merging with the distant sound of the door creaking ominously. It felt as if the house itself was watching us, waiting. "Help me!" I begged, glancing around for something to force the door open. Mom was still near the entrance, staring at the ground, lost in that vacant expression once more. "Mom!" I cried out. I had to snap her out of this. Suddenly I noticed something beneath the kitchen table, a dark shape. I crouched down to see better. It was an old hammer, rusty but useful. I grabbed it, feeling a surge of determination. "Mom, we need to get out right now." She lifted her head, looking at me as if coming back from a distant place. "What?" "They're trying to come in. We have to break the door." I handed her the hammer, and for a moment, her grip seemed firm. I could see the fight returning to her eyes. She nodded and swung at the door handle, but our efforts were interrupted by a sudden crash from the living room. I jumped, all hope fading for a split second. What was that? "Stay close," I urged, my own voice trembling. We raced toward the sound, the hammer clutched tightly in my grip. As we entered the living room, I froze. The front door was wide open, swinging lazily on its hinges. Shadows danced just outside, elongated shapes moving as if beckoning us. "They're here," Mom whispered. The fog of confusion in her eyes appeared to lift entirely, replaced by sheer terror. She turned toward me, panic coursing through her. "We have to go back," she shouted. But before I could respond, the whispers reached a deafening crescendo. I jumped back, captivated by what stood just beyond the threshold. It was a figure dressed in dark clothing, its face obscured by a hood. My throat tightened as I recognized the voice calling from the door before. "Time for the approval," it said, smooth and haunting. "Who are you?" I demanded, but my voice trembled. My heart felt like it was going to burst. I didn't know what would happen next, but it felt like everything was collapsing around us. "Who do you think you are?" The voice hissed, now laced with malice. "You're not supposed to be here." Then in a flash, everything changed. The lights flickered violently, plunging us into darkness. The last thing I heard was Mom whisper, "We shouldn't have stayed." And then I found myself alone in the dark, the whispers swirling around me once more. My heart raced in the oppressive darkness. I could barely hear the whispers now, as if they were forming a barrier around me. Panic tightened my throat. Where was Mom? I felt the cold floor beneath my hands, the only thing anchoring me to reality. "Mom!" I called out, my voice cracking. No answer. I couldn't tell if she'd been taken or if she was hiding, but I hoped it was the latter. I pushed myself up, my legs trembling. The room felt infinite and constrained all at once. I took hesitant steps toward the living room door, the shadows conspiring against me. The front door still stood ajar, swinging gently as if inviting me to step closer. I inhaled sharply and picked up the hammer again, its weight giving me a fleeting sense of courage. Just then I heard a shuffle behind me. I spun around, the hammer raised, my eyes strained against the darkness. "Who's there?" I demanded. But all that greeted me was silence. My instinct screamed at me to run, but I didn't even know which way to go. Somewhere in the distance, I heard it again. A whisper, eerily familiar. "They're waiting for you." That voice triggered something deep within me, and it wasn't just recognition. It filled me with dread. I started moving toward the doorway again. With each step, the whispers grew louder, the words blending into chaotic sounds. I pushed my way through the threshold, adrenaline coursing through me. Outside, the night air was thick, filled with an electric tension that seemed alive. I peered into the yard, shadows shifting among the trees. "Mom!" I shouted once more, straining to hear her response. Nothing. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. A figure emerged from the darkness, hooded and indistinct. The moment our eyes met, I stumbled back. It wasn't just any figure. It felt all too familiar. "Please, no!" I gasped, realizing it was a man I knew. Joe, a friend of my dad's who had died years ago in a car accident. "You can't be here." I trembled, my breath coming out in quick bursts. He stepped closer, words forming that sounded distant. "You've been chosen, just like the others." A searing wave of fear knocked the breath from me. What did that mean? My mind raced. Why was he here? I tried to back away, but my feet refused to cooperate, as if the ground had rooted me in place. The darkness around me seemed to close in, a tangible force. "Stop it!" I shouted, gripping the hammer tighter. "Get away from me!" In response, Joe's expression shifted. His mouth curled into an unsettling smile. "You think you can escape your fate?" Before I could make sense of his words, I heard Mom's voice calling from inside the house, desperate and echoing. "Help me! Please! Where are you?" The urgency clawed at my insides. I turned back toward the house, adrenaline pulsing in my veins. I needed to reach her, but the presence of Joe loomed larger than life. That's when I realized it wasn't just him standing there. More figures started to appear, emerging from the shadows behind him. I could hear their whispers mixing with my mother's cries. "You have to decide." The choice was clear, though terrifying. Either confront Joe and the others, or find my mother and face whatever danger lay waiting in that cursed house. Either way, I had to move, but my next step felt uncertain. As I hesitated, the figures began to step forward, closing in on me. I had to act quickly before they consumed me completely. I broke into a sprint, my heart pounding in my ears. I darted past Joe, not daring to look back. His words echoed in my mind, but I couldn't let them settle. "Keep going. Find Mom." I rushed through the front door, the night air hitting me as I crossed the threshold. "Mom!" I shouted again, hoping to drown out the whispers that chased me into the house. The darkness felt thicker inside, wrapping around my limbs like tendrils, but I pushed forward. I could still hear her voice, muffled and frantic. "Help me! Where are you?" I raced toward the sound, moving deeper into the living room. The shadows flickered oddly on the walls, casting warped silhouettes that danced around me. I felt like a puppet on a string, pulled by the dread looming overhead. As I moved, I stumbled over something on the floor, a table leg. I nearly fell but caught myself before hitting the ground. "Mom, I'm coming!" I cried, my voice trembling. And then I turned toward the hallway leading to the back of the house. The door to the staircase stood slightly ajar, light spilling from the top like a beacon in the darkness, promising safety, yet warning of danger. I took a deep breath and headed up, the wood creaking beneath my feet. Each step felt heavier than the last. I reached the top and glanced down the hallway. From one of the rooms at the end, the cries began again. Urgent, pleading. "Please help me! I'm scared!" I started to run again, but a shadow moved in the corner of my eye, blocking my path. I halted, heart leaping into my throat. It was another figure, standing at the end of the hall. His face was hidden, but his posture was menacing. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "It's not who I am," came the voice, smooth and soothing, yet I felt my stomach turn. "It's what you choose." I felt a wild urge to run back into the safety of the staircase, but the thought of leaving my mom alone made me freeze. "What do you mean?" He took a step closer, and I could see his face now. It was someone else I recognized, a neighbor from years ago. The memory flickered but didn't settle. "This isn't your choice alone," he said slowly. "You need to decide who to save. You and the others have to play the game." Panic surged through me again. I didn't want to play any game. I wanted to save my mom. I tried to step around him, but he blocked my path. "What happens if I don't play?" He smiled, and it sent chills down my spine. "The game plays itself, and many others will get hurt." My heart sank at his words. Suddenly I knew I didn't have much time. I had to act fast. "You can't keep me here!" I shouted, trying to push my way past him. But as I lunged, he vanished like smoke, leaving me with a whisper trailing off. "Make your choice." I stood there, panting, feeling the world tilt around me. Shadows seemed to press against the walls, closing in as I realized I was running out of time. I needed to find my mother and end this nightmare. With renewed determination, I dashed toward the source of her cries, praying I wouldn't regret whatever lay ahead. Then everything went dark. I blinked, and suddenly I was standing in the hallway again. The darkness clawed at my vision, thick and smothering. The cries, once so close, were now faint echoes. I felt disoriented, like I'd been pulled back into a moment I thought I'd escaped. "Mom!" I yelled again, my voice cracking. I needed to find her. I moved forward, trying to shake off the confusion. The dim light at the end of the corridor flickered, drawing me in. Clenching my fists, I pressed onward. The silence was almost worse than the cries. Each step felt like walking through molasses. Just as I reached the door at the end of the hall, the whispers started again. This time, they surrounded me, swirling in an icy breeze that seemed to come from nowhere. "Choose wisely," they crooned. But I was too focused to fully register the words. I pushed the door open and stepped into the room. The sight made my stomach drop. It was empty. The walls were bare, and the floor was covered in dust, untouched and forgotten. My heart sank. Where was she? Then I noticed something on the floor. A small piece of paper. I knelt down to pick it up, but a cold breeze whipped through the room, sending chills up my spine. I hesitated, and then unfolded it carefully. The words were scratched hastily, as if written in a panic. "Find the key," it read. "In the shadows, the truth waits." A key? I looked around, searching for anything that could lead me to my mom, or at least some clue. I stood up and turned, scanning the corners of the room. My eyes fell on a jagged edge of shadow where a piece of furniture might have been moved. I approached it, heart pounding. With a deep breath, I reached toward the depths of that shadow. My fingers grazed something cool and metallic. I pulled it out, a rusted key. "Mom, where are you?" I whispered, my eyes wide. I had no idea where this key went, but I hoped it would lead me to her. Just then the door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, fear gripping me. I had to find a way out. I rattled the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of haunting voices that filled my head. I needed to escape. "The game!" I shouted, remembering the neighbor's words. What did he mean? Was this the game? Suddenly the air shifted. I felt something move behind me. I turned and my breath caught in my throat. A figure stepped from the shadows. His face was familiar yet twisted, dark eyes piercing right through me. "You shouldn't have touched that key," he said, his voice echoing unnaturally. Panic ignited once more. "What do you want? Where's my mom?" "You have to choose," he replied, stepping closer. "But remember, every choice has a price." Before I could respond, the room went dark again. The weight of silence pressed in, and I could feel my heart racing. A new threat was closing in, and I had to figure it out quickly, or lose everything. Then the door behind me creaked open slowly. I couldn't see what lay beyond, but I knew I had to decide. Would I step forward into the unknown, or would I keep searching in the dark? The darkness hung heavily as I stood frozen, paralyzed by uncertainty. My heart thundered against my ribs like a trapped animal. I glanced back at the figure, but he was lost in the shadows. A chill crawled up my spine, and the whispers intensified, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. "Choose," they hissed. "Choose." I was faced with the door, an invitation or a trap. I took a shaky step forward, the floor creaking beneath me. A thought flickered in my mind. Was leaving the room really the choice? Or was it just another way to fall into the unknown? I had to fight against the urge to flee. I needed answers. With a deep breath, I stepped into the darkness of the doorway. The air was different here. Cooler, charged with a kind of energy that made every hair on my arms stand on end. I glanced back once, but my former refuge was already merging into the swirling shadows. Beyond the door, the hallway stretched out before me, the faint glow of light barely piercing the inky black. I could feel the key in my pocket. It was a solid weight, something real amongst the chaos. Maybe it could help me find my mom. I clung to that hope like a lifeline. As I moved through the corridor, the whispers shifted, coiling around my thoughts. They urged me to listen, to pay attention. That's when I noticed something. An old photograph tacked to the wall, barely illuminated by the flickering light. I hesitated but stepped closer, curiosity outweighing my fear. The image showed a group of people, smiling, carefree. My mom was in the center, her laughter suspended in time. But something felt off. The faces around her gradually became unrecognizable. It was as if they changed the moment I looked too long. I blinked and the photo flickered. My breath caught. I saw them, her friends and family, all twisted, their mouths stretched into grins that weren't real. Panic clawed at my throat. I stumbled back, shaking my head as if that could erase the image. "Look deeper," the whispers tittered around me. "The truth is in the shapes you fear." "What shapes?" My mind raced. I looked back at the photo, heart pounding. That's when the light dimmed further, as if responding to my dread. I reached for the photograph again, my mind racing through the words written on the paper. Was this what it meant by the shadows? Before I had the chance to examine it, I heard footsteps echoing down the hall. They were heavy, deliberate, coming from the direction I had just left. I turned, fear rising in my chest. I had to make a choice. Stay and investigate what held my mother, or flee to the safety of shadows I didn't understand. The darkness was closing in, and anxiety tightened around me like a vice. Then it happened. The photograph slipped from my fingers, crashing to the ground. As I crouched to pick it up, I felt cold breath on my neck. There was no time left to decide. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I ran down the hall, pushing against the shadows, desperate to escape. But I had a sinking feeling I was charging headlong into something much worse. My feet pounded against the floor, each step a desperate plea for safety. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, a twisted labyrinth designed to confuse. I could still hear the footsteps behind me, each echo a reminder that I wasn't alone. I stumbled past doorways that led to who knew where. I focused on the flickering light ahead, willing it to lead me out. As I raced, I tried to suppress the panic clawing at my mind. I could feel the key in my pocket digging into my thigh. It was a strange comfort in this chaos. I focused on it, trying to convince myself I had something tangible. Even though I was terrified, some part of me was growing furious. Why was I running? What or who was I escaping from? I turned a corner and skidded to a stop. A massive door loomed ahead, different from anything I had seen so far. Its surface was an uneven texture, almost like a rough stone, and it was completely black. The air around it felt charged, heavy with a sense of anticipation. The whispers urged me to approach, and even uncertainty pulled me forward. Slowly I reached out and placed my hand against the cold surface. "What do you want from me?" I whispered, hoping for some clarity. The whispers faded momentarily, almost surprised. "Unlock it," they said in unison, their voices becoming sharp and urgent. "Unlock it!" My fingers instinctively searched for the key in my pocket. It felt warm against my skin, like it knew what I needed to do. I fumbled with it, trying to slide the key into the rusted lock while maintaining my composure. The footsteps grew louder behind me. I could hear the breath of whoever pursued me, their presence igniting a fresh wave of fear. I finally succeeded in inserting the key, turning it with a click that resonated through the air. The door creaked open, revealing a dim room beyond. I hesitated. Fear always haunted me, but there was something magnetizing about that space. Someone needed help. Perhaps it was my mom. Without taking the time to think, I pushed through the door. The darkness was thicker here, wrapping around me like a visible force. I felt my way in, letting my eyes adjust to the dim glow emanating from the corners. That's when I noticed a figure hunched in the far corner. My heart raced, but this time out of hope. "Mom?" I called out shakily, my voice barely cutting through the silence. The figure turned, and for a moment, light cascaded across their face. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't my mom. The person's features were familiar but twisted, distorted. My heart raced with a blend of recognition and dread. "Why did you leave?" The figure croaked, their expression tightening into something almost sinister. I froze, uncertainty flooding my thoughts. I was looking for you. Where's my mom?" But instead of a reply, the figure only smiled wider, revealing sharp teeth glinting in the faint light. That's when everything went dark. A sudden rush of cold enveloped me, and I stumbled backward, my heart pounding like a drum. I wrestled with the sensation of falling, until I realized the reality. This wasn't just darkness. It was a void. And I was falling into it, spiraling down, the figure's voice echoing in my mind. You shouldn't have opened the door. I woke up gasping on the floor of my living room, the air heavy with the smell of dust and desperation. The familiar chime of the outside world crept through the windows where the daylight poured in, painting everything in shades of muted comfort. I blinked, disoriented, my heart racing as I sat up. The house felt still, serene even, an eerie calm settling over everything. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake the images of the dark figure and the twisted smile from my mind. The weight of the key rested heavy in my pocket, its presence grounding me amidst the fragile normalcy. "Mom?" I called out, the sound shaky. For a moment there was no answer, just an unsettling silence blanketing the house. I pushed myself up, scanning the room, searching for any trace of my mother. I remembered the suffocating darkness and the frantic calls, the whispers that had tormented me, and my stomach twisted. "Mom!" I shouted, urgency creeping back as I stepped toward her room. I braced myself for anything. The shadowed figures, the promises of choice, the figure from the void. I had made it out. But was it really over? I knocked on her door, anxiety flickering through me. "Mom, are you in there?" The door creaked open to reveal her sitting in her chair, sunlight washing over her like a protective shield. She looked aged, more fragile than I remembered, but she smiled softly at me. Relief flooded my chest. "Kevin," she said in a voice laced with affection that made my heart ache. "You're back. I was so worried." "Back? Where did I go?" I asked, stepping inside, feeling disoriented again. "What happened?" She looked at me with confusion, perhaps concern. "You've been here, sweetheart. Right here." The hollow heaviness in my chest returned. "No. Those voices. In the basement. The figures. Were you aware of any of it?" Her brow furrowed and I saw a flash of something unsettled in her eyes. "Basement? There's nothing down there but old boxes. What are you talking about?" "Mom," I said, kneeling beside her, gripping her hands tightly. "I went to find you. I heard you calling. But it wasn't you. Something was trying to reach me, to lead me away. You were in danger." A flicker of fear crossed her face, but just as quickly, it was gone. "I think you're just overtired, honey. It's been a lot of change for both of us. Remember to take care of yourself." I shook my head, disbelief overcoming me. No, it wasn't a dream. It felt too real. "Mom, please." But she merely smiled again, an expression too serene amidst the heavy storm brewing inside me. "It's okay, Kevin. We're safe now. Let's just forget about it." A chill gripped my spine, battling against the warmth of her hands. I wanted to believe her so badly, yet I felt an insatiable pull toward the unknown, lurking just beneath the surface of our shared reality. "But what if it happens again?" I whispered. "What if they come back?" She met my gaze, and for a brief moment, I could see in her eyes a flicker of recognition, a tremor of something unspoken. "Then we'll just face it together," she said, though I sensed a guardedness. "Just like we always have." The words both soothed and unsettled me. I wanted to protect her, wanted to keep us both safe from whatever haunted us. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the door I had opened had not truly closed. It was a ghost that lingered in the corners of our lives, and now we were trapped in a precarious dance between safety and the shadows we couldn't fully understand. The whispers flitted at the edge of my awareness like smoke in the wind. As I glanced out the window, shadows crept along the edges, stretching longer beneath the encroaching twilight. I realized then that I didn't know what awaited us. Perhaps it was just a memory. Perhaps it was a warning. But deep inside, I felt the threads of mystery tightening. I would never be able to shake the feeling that something had shifted, that I'd walked away from a choice hardwired into the house and into our lives. And while we sat together, poised comfortably in our safety, the key in my pocket remained. A constant reminder. A possibility waiting for us to decide what was real and what waited in the darkness. Sometimes I wonder if there are truly doors meant to be opened, or if some should forever remain closed. I watch the shadows lengthen, and I can't help but wonder what is yet to come.